What up, everybody? It's Aaron here with Robert. This is Get Your Geek On, and this is our review of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's newest film, Eternals.
Eternals.
I'm not gonna say
finally here.
Yeah,
it's finally here. It's been so long. So yeah, I mean, Eternals, directed by Chloe Zhao and starring a whole bunch of people: Gemma Chan, Richard Madden, Angelina Jolie, Salma Hayek, Kit Harington, Kumail Nanjiani, Leah McHugh, Brian Tyree Henry, Lauren Ridloff, Barry Keoghan, I believe is how you say it. Don Lee. I think that's pretty much it. There's also Bill Skarsgard is a voice. Right. People will know him as Pennywise from It, but he's not actually in the movie. And then there's a couple other characters or actors which we will not spoil here. Because we're gonna start off with a non-spoiler review. Probably talk for maybe 10 minutes or so, and then we'll move into spoiler territory, where we will reveal not one but two special actors that are in a mid-credit scene, which you may already know.
Three.
Ooh, if we talk about the post-credit scene, maybe. Although that one, it's we don't even see the person. So come on.
But let's wait, like you said. So. We are going to talk about right now just our our thoughts of it, give our review, and then of course, if you want the full spoiler version, go check out YouTube at youtube.com/officialgygo.
Yeah.
So I'll let you take over on this part. You always do like the little breakdown because you're better than I am at that. I always bow out.
I mean, we'll talk about it. So, anyways, Eternals. If you are unfamiliar, they're basically a set of cosmic beings that have been sent to Earth by a celestial named Erishim, and their job is to keep humanity safe from the deviants. And so they've been on our planet for 7,000 years, and for about 6,500 of that, they were eliminating deviants. And then, like about our I guess maybe 5,500 of that. So roughly, about 1,500 years ago in this timeline, or it's like around 500 AD, somewhere around there, they defeat the last of the deviants and are now awaiting their orders to be able to leave the planet now that they've eliminated all the deviants. But they're not getting that order, and they're just living among us. So they've been living among us for all that time. And there's 10 of them. They all each have different powers, which I think we'll talk about. But basically, there's 4 warriors, which are actually I should pull that list back up. Icarus, who is Richard Madden, Thena, who is Angelina Jolie, Kingo, who is Kumail Nanjiani, and then Gilgamesh, who is Don Lee. They're the 4 warriors. Then you have Makati, who's like a speedster, and she helps out in the fights too. You have Druig, who can control people's minds. You have Fastos, who is an inventor. You have Sprite, who can do illusions, almost like Loki, that kind of illusion magic, if you will. You have Ajak, who's the leader and the healer. And then our character, who's kind of the main character, the protagonist of this movie, is Cersei, and she basically can manipulate non-organic matter. So she cannot control anything that is living, but she can turn rocks into pretty much anything she wants. And so they each have like their different powers, and then they've just been living on Earth, and the snap by Thanos and people coming back has caused what is known as the emergence, which I don't know. I guess we should. Is that spoiler to talk about what the emergence is?
I mean, no. It just gives you
because they don't reveal that until maybe like halfway through the movie.
I mean, so I guess it's just what causes the villain to come out. I mean, that's the best way to do it.
The emergence is basically that the planet is going to blow up.
Yeah.
We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
The planet is going to explode, and the team, needs to figure out a way to save humanity.
Right.
That's basically what it is. So I think we're not going to go plot by plot, but that's kind of the story we start with
yeah.
Cersei, and most of them have kind of paired off and are living in pairs almost, like Cersei and Sprite
yeah.
are living together. You've got Thena and Gilgamesh are living together. And I guess they're the only pairs.
They're the only ones, because I mean, you have Ajax kind of living by herself.
Yeah.
Icarus is kind of doing his own thing.
Correct.
Druig is off his Druig is doing his own thing.
Druig's off by himself. Phastos is with his family. Kingo is a Bollywood movie star, and then Makati is like just chilling on their ship, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
that was weird.
The
way that she just showed up. But anyway, so they got to get the band back together. They got to get everyone together, figure out what's going on, because some deviants are showing back up, which they're not supposed to, because they thought they killed them all 1,500 years ago. And the deviant is actually evolving, it seems like, and is getting harder and harder to kill. And they've never been able to speak before, and it's starting to like play around with some speech patterns. So it's freaking them out. They're like, what's going on? What's going on?
Yeah.
So they got to fight them. They got to stop the emergence from happening, which is going to tear apart the planet. And at the end of the day, some things happen, some surprises, some twists and turns. But ultimately, of course, they save the planet. And at the end of the movie, a few characters, spoiler alert, are dead. A few characters decide to stay on Earth, and a few characters decide to, leave the planet. And so we won't spoil anything more. But the team is together for this movie, and then they're out.
It's reverse Avengers.
Yeah, kind of. And it's told in a couple different, like, we get the present day story, but then we also get like 4 or 5, I don't know if they're really flashbacks, but just kind of, peeks into different points in the Eternals history.
Right.
Like we see them arrive on Earth, and then we see a couple different battles that they have as they're, helping humanity to again survive and also thrive. Like they are kind of assisting humanity throughout, but they're not interfering in any of the wars, and decreasing conflict or anything like that. The only time they're allowed to intervene in terms of protection or anything like that is when deviants are involved. So there you go. That's kind of Eternals in a nutshell. It is a long movie.
It is 2.5 hours.
Yeah, the longest movie besides Endgame in the MCU. Although the reports are that Spider-Man No Way Home will beat this by like 2 minutes. But anyways,
2 minutes.
Something like that. What are your initial thoughts? What do you think about Eternals?
I mean, we just watched it a few days ago, and at first I will tell everybody I talk about this film, I tell them the same thing. Don't set the bar up to the Avengers standards. Don't say that this is going to be action packed, it's going to be witty, it's going to be all of this. No, you got to remember, these are a group of people we know nothing about. You have no idea on their powers. Even hardcore comic book fans, stuff has changed with the Eternals. So we don't know exactly what they're to expect. So I went in there with, I would say, a lowish, medium-ish type bar for what I would want to see in a film. And it did very well above and beyond that for me. Again, like you said, there's a lot to story to tell. We have 10 new characters that we have to explain, not only them, but we also have the guy from Game of Thrones character to kind of touch on a little bit, which makes it almost 11 characters. I mean, that's a lot of characters for the 2.5 hour movie. Oh, and by the way, we guys still have a villain to kind of introduce.
Villains, antagonists, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so overall, I actually enjoyed it. I will say there was a period towards about I want to say right between the second and third act that it kind of felt like it dragged for maybe about 20 minutes or so for me, where I felt like I kind of got left, like I was like, I'm a little bored. Let me check my, okay, I'm just a little bored for this like 20 minutes. And then I was right back into it. But I've, some movies do that for me where they're so long and there's a lot of dialogue and everything else that it just drags.
Yeah.
But it looked beautiful when we got to see how like Sprite uses her magic, how we got to see how their powers work. I always thought that was beautiful. It wasn't like solid pieces of like magic or whatever. Like I like Angelina Jolie's character Athena. it was more of like a wire mesh looking thing, and that just looked
Yeah,
really cool to me.
I agree.
Again, different takes on how these powers should work, and I think it worked beautifully. And again, being the guy who loves the cosmic superheroes, seeing a celestial on the big screen was just amazing. Even though it's not like a huge one that I can think of, it was still fun to see him because that gives us closer and closer to like the Living Tribunal, Galactus, and everybody else. Even though Galactus is technically not a celestial, but yeah. What about you though? Like, what did I know? You know nothing about the Eternals.
Yeah.
You're not a big comic book fan in that sense. So, what did you think of this film, especially being the film guy of both of us?
Yeah, I mean, so I think not that my expectations were lower, but I think that just based on like the marketing material, I just wasn't as excited for this one as I have been for some of the more recent movies. Like this is probably from an excitement level, this is probably the least excited that I've been since like Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Okay.
Which I didn't really love the first Ant-Man. It was like, oh, I enjoyed that, but I wasn't like super hyped for Ant-Man and Wasp. So that was the same type of thing. It was like I wasn't super hyped. Obviously, I wanted to see it. I'm a big MCU fan. I love all these movies, and so it was like I want to see this. I want to see what it brings, and maybe it'll be super interesting and it'll bring new characters. So I think overall, I did enjoy the movie. I thought it was a good movie, and I think it was great. It certainly has some flaws. And I do think that it suffered from having so many characters to introduce. There are a few that really feel shortchanged, that they kind of use shortcuts to make us like, oh, like you should care about this person. But in some cases, those shortcuts work, and in other cases, they don't. And so there are certainly characters in this movie that I found myself not really connected to. I think we'll get into that probably in spoilers, but I would say out of the 10 characters, there were probably, out of the 10 Eternals, there were probably maybe 4 that I was really connected to. And the rest of them were kind of like, okay, you're here. I'm enjoying you when you're on screen, but I'm not really thinking about you or what you're bringing to the table or what this is going to cost you, any of those things. And so I think that that was kind of that's a struggle when you introduce so many characters, and some of them they work really hard to give you that backstory, and some of them it's really shorthand. It's just like you get like a few character beats. It gives you enough for you to know who that character is, but it doesn't really give you enough for you to connect to them fully, at least in my opinion.
No, I agree with you on that.
But overall, the movie was fun. I thought, I didn't think it was surprising. Like, I think that there were a few things, and Marvel has done this a few different times, especially it seems recently, where they're like, okay, we're going to throw this twist at you and you're not going to see it coming. And it was like, no, I'm going to see that coming.
I saw that
like
a way. Yeah.
Like something like, when Jude Law was the villain of Captain Marvel. It's like, yeah, of course Jude Law was the villain of Captain Marvel. Like nobody didn't see that coming. So I think that this movie suffered a little bit from that, of like we're going to trick you. And then it just didn't. Like there was nothing in this movie that was surprising. I don't think that's a bad thing, except that from a structure standpoint, there is a couple of beats that they really want you to feel surprised, and you can tell because our characters in the movie are surprised. But as someone watching it, it was like, yeah, this is exactly what's going to happen next. So that was, I guess, a little bit disappointing that there weren't really any twists and turns that kind of caught me off guard or anything like that. But overall, I did enjoy the movie. I thought the action was really pretty. As you said, the effects were really gorgeous around a lot of the characters and the power set they were using. The wide shots where you see like the scenery or the ships or any of that stuff, like that was all really really well done. And I thought it was very well acted too. Like I enjoyed all of the portrayals that our actors were giving us. And so ultimately I think it's a good movie. I think we'll probably get into it, but I think this one falls out of the 25 ish movies that are in the MCU now. I think maybe there's 26. This one probably falls, in like that lower third, maybe like 17, 18, like somewhere around there. Like, I think it's probably around the same as like Black Widow this year, which I think again was a good movie, but it's just kind of like,
short.
like of the three this year, Shang-Chi is easily, I think, the best movie. And then this one and Black Widow are just a little bit lower. It doesn't mean they're bad. I still enjoy it, but overall, it was good.
And I agree with you. I think out of the movies, we're going to get one more MCU movie before year's up. And let's face it, I already think it's going to be better than this film. I don't think Spider-Man can do worse.
I wouldn't expect it to.
Yeah. I really think you're right, though. Right now, out of Shang-Chi, Black Widow, and Eternals is my number 2, only because, again, I don't like prequels for films. And that's something I've always said. I don't like it because you have plot protection. You know who can live and who can die. So I hate that. Yeah. And that's something I've always griped about. And in this one, I mean, I called it. I said there's going to be at least 2, I thought. And we got plenty of that. And I was like, okay. I was a little surprised how many we lost. But I was like, okay. Still, we met my expectation. Like, okay, we still lost people like I thought we would. And again, though, like you said, it's a good movie. You're right. It does fall. We have so many little people we got to talk about, the relationships that they built, and we got to talk about these characters and why they're important. But we're not really going to talk about this one because, time, so I do wish maybe they would have done like a part 1, part 2 kind of thing for the Eternals. Maybe, or maybe not give us 10 of them off the bat, maybe give us just 4 or 5 and be like, oh, the second film, it's, the other 5 are coming around now. But yeah, overall, a good movie and still worth watching. Like I said before, I know a guy who doesn't want to watch it based on critic review. And again, I'm going to tell that guy, and I told a buddy called me right afterwards, right when we left the movie theater, and we were talking about the film. He's like, would you see it? Would you recommend it? And I said, yes. Go in there with a lowish set bar, though. Don't go in there expecting to see Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, and all that comedy and action. Sure. Expect to see something fresh and new. And Marvel did that. I will say that. It's a fresh take on a Marvel movie, and it was perfect in that sense. But the movie itself, not so perfect. I would say go see it and go from there. And I guess let's rate it, and then we'll cut to the spoiler part. What's your rating?
Okay. I think I'm going to rate this. I think I'm going to give it like a 6.3.
Okay.
Good movie. Not, above average. Not great. Certainly not terrible. But I do think it definitely, as I kind of mentioned before, it suffers from, we're not able to connect with all the characters because of the long run time, and because there's so many, it does drag in some places. And on top of that, again, I think that some of the twists they want you to think are twists aren't. They just didn't really work as twists. It doesn't mean they didn't work as story elements, but the way the movie is selling them to you, they're supposed to be twists.
Exactly.
And so if that part doesn't work, then it does kind of, bring it down. But, I had a good time with it. So yeah, 6.3. What about you?
Okay. I'm going to kind of sit there with you. I was going to go 6.5. And the only reason I was actually kind of thinking a little bit lower, and we'll get into the spoiler part. There's one fight scene that I truly enjoyed that kind of gives that little bit extra that I'm like, I like how you went that extra little mile, and I enjoyed that. And that's why I'm going to give you 6.5. Again, just a little above average, but yes, to me, it's almost just an average movie. Again, a fresh take on a Marvel movie. I know when we see Spider-Man, it's not going to be that fresh take. We're going to get something that we've been seeing for the last 12 years, probably.
I mean, I don't maybe, or we're going to see the multiverse explode.
We're going to see Doctor Strange walking with that pizza. WandaVision, crap. Loki, crap. Spider-Man, really? You're the good one. Throws the pizza.
Except it looks like Doctor Strange is the one that does it. If you look at the trailers,
it's true.
It's his own fault.
It's true. So, at this point, we're going to cut this part here, guys. So if you want our spoiler review, again, go check out official GYGO at youtube.com, and you can get the whole thing. But on that note, stay geeky and get your geek on. And for those who are still here now, this is spoiler part.
Spoilers.
All spoilers.
Full spoilers.
And I kind of want to comment on what I just said, too, if you don't mind, about the scene I liked.
Go for it.
So I know you like DC. We've seen all the DC movies, too. I don't know if you know how in the comics, Flash is faster than Superman. That's
Right.
Something that's been done. First of all, she's right. She doesn't do that. She can show that she can run.
Yeah, Makati is super fast. Yeah.
So
and she's also deaf, which I feel like we probably should have mentioned.
Yeah.
In the other portion, our first kind of major deaf character.
Yeah.
And Fastos is our first prominent gay superhero as well. Certainly in movies. So that's pretty cool. We got a little bit of representation.
It is, and I am happy for that. It was amazing. But first of all, so thank you, Marvel, for not doing the whole flinging thing. Number one. Number two,
the Ezra Miller Flash run is of the 1,000 dumb things in the Snyderverse. That's near the top.
That's like
along with Superman being like a rage murder monster.
Exactly.
Okay, we're not here to talk about that. Sorry.
No. So you find out the twist, and this is why I'm going to comment. Icarus is not. I don't want to say he's a bad guy. He is a soldier following orders to the T, and is not happy that people aren't following the orders. Right. He now thinks you're basically treason.
Again, like spoiler alert. As we've talked about, the emergence is that basically they were sent here to help the population grow to the point where a new celestial could be born, because the celestial had been implanted inside of our planet, but needs a certain amount of energy to be born, and in the process of being born will destroy the planet. And it is revealed that this is something that the Eternals have been, and Celestials have been doing over and over again. They get their minds wiped every time. So most of them have no idea that this is what they're doing. Icarus does find out from Ajak. She's the only one that knows the true mission, but she tells Icarus, and so he is aware of that for about the last 1,500 years. Once they've defeated the deviants, that's when he finds out, and so he lives with that knowledge for 1,500 years and comes to terms with the fact that this is what he needs to do. He needs to destroy the planet. And it's for the greater good, if you will.
Exactly, and that's why I say I don't call him a villain, because he's following orders.
He's an antagonist. He's not a villain.
Yeah, so the reason I want to bring it up is because we have our big fight scene with him, and I think our speedster, I think her character and him, the fight scene is perfect.
It was cool.
Because to me, speedsters, when they fight someone super strong like him, you have to do hit and run. I can hit you, but I have to run away, because if you hit me once, I'm out. And that's how it is, like with Flash and Superman always. It's, I got to back off, because if Soup hits me, I'm toast. But we never got to see that in the Snyderverse or any of the DC films. He is just as fast as the Flash almost, and he could see the Flash coming. I'm like, no, that's not how it should work. In the movies or in the comic verse, Flash thinks at a higher level than everybody else. He is so quick to think, it almost looks like he's precognitive, because he can see he's already thinking that. And I like this one because that's how she was, though. She was bam, 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 back off, bam, 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 bam. And I love that fight scene, because that to me is how a speedster fights these people. And again, when she got hit, it was like, oh, I need to recover, because like this guy is super strong. I can't take a hit from him.
Right.
And I think they did that whole fight beautifully. And that's why I say that's something that worth watching this film, is if you want to see almost like Flash versus Superman, this was the closest you're going to get to it probably. But in the end, it's still such a great fight scene.
Yeah, I think that the entire fight scene at the end against Icarus, like the different, having Thena fight him was cool. When Fastos was like using his inventions, like all of that, I thought was really working. Like I did like that fight on the beach. It was definitely the best action piece
to me. That's
of the movie.
Yeah, and that's what Justice League should have had in it when they fought Superman, was something like this. Batman trying to use his gadgets to hold him down. The speedster trying to bam, 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 bam. Then like Athena, because she doesn't have the A. Right. She could fight him, but same concept. She couldn't really take too many hits from him.
Yeah,
because he was more powerful.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost like Wonder Woman fighting Superman.
Yeah,
like, you can hold your own for a little bit, but if Superman gets that upper hand, you're in trouble.
And that's what happens. And I love all of that. I thought it was all perfect.
So I do want to talk. I want to kind of rewind and talk about. I do think one of the things that the old flashback scenes did well is I think it established the team. Yes. I think showing them working together and, like even communicating together. I think there's one particular moment where like the speedster Makati saves Kingo, in a moment, and he kind of signs to her, "Nice move," and she kind of like, replies
Thank
back.
you,
And I was like, okay, that was cool. Like I was really enjoying the establishment of the team. And so like establishing Eternals, the team, they did a good job.
Yes.
Establishing each individual character, this is where, like, especially the one that really let me down was Salma Hayek's Ajak.
Yes.
Like, it was like, she's the leader of the team, and like we get almost nothing with her. Like, I was so frustrated by how little they established her character. And they really just tried to use shorthand, like, well, she's the leader of this team and she's telling them to do this. And so this is why, like, and again, we're in spoiler territory. So, well, she's come to see the error of her ways and she wants to save humanity, kind of thing. And so like, we're supposed to care about her. And ultimately I didn't, because they didn't do the work to make me care about that character.
Agreed.
There were a few other ones, but she was the one that really hit me the most, because it was like, I want to care about her, but I don't.
Yeah. No, and I agree. She was very much the weakest one, I would say. And the next one that's right up there with her is the speedster Malik, right? Makati. She is the next weakest, because like you said, she's literally just been sitting in the ship for 1,500 years doing what? And that's what bothered me, that literally all we get are hints that she has left, because we see like I think it was like Twinkies or something that all of a sudden are there. It's like, okay, so obviously she leaves. She finds the Emerald Tablet that they comment, which was a nice little throwback. She was looking for the Emerald Tablet back in like 1500 BCE or something like that.
I don't remember which one it was, but
okay, so we got throwbacks. So she's collecting things. She doesn't know a lot, because when they what's his name comments, "Oh, have you watched my movies?" And she's like, "I don't know what a DVD player. I don't have a DVD player." He's like, "Oh, you can stream it." She's like, "What streaming?" So obviously she doesn't go out every day, but she probably goes out every few years and does stuff. And I really would like to know, what was she doing for 1,500 years? And, did she, let's face it, as someone who's deaf, these people were teaching sign language. They were teaching men and women how to use inventions and create them. So did she help maybe have Druig teach people sign language? Because it's like, we wouldn't have been born to know that. And Druig and her, I loved her and Druig's dynamic, though. The little bit
I agree.
I wanted more of that.
Yeah. And that was the thing, is like that's kind of what I was thinking about earlier when I mentioned that they were paired off, because the two of them kind of have that shorthand and pairing, and it's like, even though they weren't together this whole time, like we do have those three specific pairs. And really kind of it's Circe, Icarus, and Sprite. Like there's all three of them are kind of, you have that shorthand, Thena and Gilgamesh, of course. And then, Ajak is kind of set apart, and Kingo kind of as well. But we did have, Makati and Druig, and Fastos was kind of set apart, but Makati and Druig had that connection. I think the two of them together worked, but again, it was that same type of thing where separately, I didn't really care about either one of them. The one that I did, that I think they did a good job with, even though we got so little of him, was Gilgamesh, played by Don Lee. I really liked his character, and his death did hit, because of what the scenes that even though they gave us just as much of him as they had of other characters, it wasn't like he had way more or anything like that, but the scenes of him were just very affecting. Like, he cared way more about Ajak's death than I did. And like when he like dropped that pie, it was like, and just the way, and the way he like was, I'm going to protect Thena, because she's got like this thing going on where she's starting to have memories affecting her, from their previous missions. So her mind has been wiped, but some of those remnants are still in there, and that's affecting her, and she's actually attacking the team. And as another warrior, he basically says, we're not going to wipe her mind, because that's the immediate, is like, well, if we can take her back to the ship and we can wipe her mind again, and then we don't have to worry about it, but then she would lose all her memories. And he's like, you know what? I'll watch over her. if she snaps, I'll take her down. I'll put her in her place, kind of thing. And just the way that he said that really sold me.
Mhm.
The way that he was a protector, like that you could see that about him. Like that is who he was. And you look at the other fighters, like Thena loves to fight.
Mhm.
She's in it for the fight. Kingo is in it for the spotlight. He loves looking good. He loves doing all that stuff. Icarus is the soldier. He's just going to do it. But totally, Gilgamesh is a protector. Like that is what he's there for. And so I just thought that was sold really well. And I did, and like, I mean, I didn't like tear up or anything, but it was kind of like oh man, like I really liked him. I didn't want to have to lose him. And of the characters that die for sure, which I would just say is him and Ajax, although Icarus maybe.
We don't know.
We don't know. I would say that his definitely affected me way more than Ajax.
And see, and I think so. I just want to comment. I loved all the characters. I think like I said, I love my couple. I love them too, Druig and I can't remember her name.
McCartney.
I love them two together. But the character I would even say connected a little bit with was Icarus, because at the end of the day, he's doing nothing wrong. He's following orders. He's being told that, like, hey, this is what we do.
I mean, he does attack his friends. So to say he's doing nothing wrong, it might be for good reasons, but attacking his friends.
But at that point, it's you're the soldiers still. At the end of the day, these are soldiers I'm teamed up with. They're also not my friends. And he also did kind of separate himself for 1,500 years, probably to cut those ties so he doesn't feel remorse for if he ever has to do something like this. Because remember, for 1,500 years, he was gone. He was just like, bye, guys.
Yeah, I mean, like him and Cersei, were together for basically the entirety of their mission. Like they were a couple, and they were together for 5,000 years or whatever. And then, when he found out the truth, and he knew that he couldn't lie to Cersei about it, and that she would feel differently, he left.
Yeah. And again, that's why I think I like Icarus, because the mission comes first for him. Once he found out what was happening, the mission still comes first.
Yeah.
And again, you're right.
But when the mission is destroy planet Earth.
Okay, but it comes down to something like this. Because I look at it this way. Galactus isn't evil, but he has to eat. So if he has to destroy a planet,
right. He's just the biggest predator in the universe.
Exactly. I mean, that's what it is. He's not evil. He's just hungry.
Now, he does know that he's destroying sentient life. So, there is that aspect of it.
But that also feeds him better because of the energy he takes from it all. Otherwise, if he eats dead planets. Yeah. So I think that's why I like Icarus, because at the end of the day, too, when he looks at Cersei, he couldn't do it. He couldn't pull the trigger. And I'm like, that is a man torn between his mission and his love. And that's what we're seeing. And he sold it well. The actor sold it well, for me at least. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's where I will agree. Is I think Richard Madden sold more than was on the page or on the screen. So? Like I think the storytelling with Icarus, I thought, fell short. Mm-hmm. I didn't fully buy his, like why he was so, about the mission. Like I saw it coming 100%, but it was kind of like, I need more from his motivations. Like, why is he so devoted to Arishem and to the Celestials and to this process?
Yeah.
Like, I needed more of that to really sell me on it. But the actor, I thought, sold it for sure. Speaking of writing that fell short, there's a couple that I wanted to mention. Number one, Sprite. So at the end, she betrays the team as well. We know that she kind of also loves Icarus, although I didn't feel like they established that in the flashback stuff. So I was kind of like, that kind of came a little bit out of nowhere.
It was just what's his name kept commenting. You didn't see that? You didn't see that? I saw that. And that's all he does.
And it was also that like the whole thing of her not aging and being, like a kid, and her like having that resentment towards, this planet and people, like they didn't build anything on the ground floor of that. It just like was immediately she was at 11 and was like, destroy the planet. I was like, wait,
why actually might be evil?
Like maybe you should have had a conversation earlier in the movie talking about how difficult it is for you to grow up. They had like that scene where she was in the bar and was like projecting an older person as a conversation kind of thing, and you could see that it did affect her, that she wasn't able to live an adult life. But I felt like there needed to be a lot more to establish that. So that one kind of caught me. And then the other one that I thought was really weird was Kingo, because he doesn't participate in the final battle because he agrees with Icarus that we should have the emergence, but he doesn't want to fight his friends. So he's kind of in that middle place. And so he just like pieces out. He's like, I'm not gonna be in this fight. I'm gonna, gonna be gone. And that was a really odd character choice for me, because again, I don't understand why he's devoted to this emergence process either. Like,
especially being so self-centered.
Well, and he kind of talks about like, well, this is how life, will, because one celestial will help this many planets and this many, and so like it's the sacrifice one to save them, it's the. But I just, it was all words.
It was, and that's something like kind of like how you say there's no setup. What do the Celestials do? We don't even know what they do. And that was when he was talking about that. That's where I think I felt like I told you like that 20 minutes or so. I think it was around that time, because I was like, you don't even know what they do.
Here's what I would have needed. I would have needed in one of those flashback sequences, I would have needed a Kingo and an Icarus, and maybe even a Sprite, to be on a mission together. And have to make the choice to sacrifice some humans to save a larger group. Right. Like, and have them. And so now you're establishing that that's something they're willing to do. We're going to sacrifice the smaller portion to save the bigger portion. Because that's what was missing, is they never established why these characters would feel that way. Because, this is like the philosophy problem. It's the trolley problem, as people talk about. It's like, are you willing to, make a choice to kill one to save four, or, that kind of thing. And it just was kind of one of those things where I was like, you need to show me that, not just tell me that that's what they're feeling. So I think that was the thing that really let me down.
And I agree, because it almost makes Sprite look like the villain, even because, like you said, she just like, cool, let's go kill everybody, and then stabs Cersei's like, no, this has to happen. It's like, you're actually a little evil, I think, because Icarus couldn't even do that. Icarus was like, no, I can't. This is the woman I love. And you were like, I'm going to sneak up behind you and stab you.
Stab in the back, literally.
You're right. It's just like, okay, you might be a little evil. But there was a lot of character choices I didn't like. Now, I do want to talk about somebody that's not an Eternal that was in this film. And that was Jon Snow. He's here.
Right. Kit Harington, also known as Dane Whitman, also known as, in the future, the Black Knight.
So I liked his character, what little we got of him throughout the film. I will say that.
So little.
Yeah, like almost you're setting them up for something in the future. We knew that. So I'm going to kind of jump straight to the end of it. The second end credit, though. I do want to say I liked his little acting, the nervousness he had in opening a box. I'll start
the ebony blade.
Yes, the ebony blade, or it could be the fake ebony blade. We don't know yet, because there's at least two out there in the Marvel Comics part.
Well, I did like I thought it was very clever of them, because when they're on their ship, and there's a bunch of stuff there. There's a point where I think Thena picks up a sword, and someone was like, "Ooh, is that the ebony blade?" And she's like, "No, it's Excalibur." That kind of thing. And it was like, so they name dropped the ebony blade, and then it showed up in the second post credits scene. I was like, nice.
Yes, yeah, I see what you did there, and it was so cool to see that. I love that. Yeah. And so he's looking at the ebony blade. He's debating about touching it, because if you know comic lore, it is cursed, and there is a curse behind the sword. And he's debating about touching it, and he's back and forth. First of all, he sold the scene for me. I would want to say that. Yeah. Really good about the anxiety, and it kind of gave me a little anxiety. And then we hear a voice who I thought at first was Samuel Jackson, but upon really thinking about it, I was not him.
You sure you're ready for that?
Huh?
You sure you're ready for that?
Yes,
I love
what
it says. That's what the voice says.
It does
And
say
it is Marshala Ali, Blade.
AKA Blade.
His
Now,
first appearance in the MCU, just a disembodied voice.
yeah, just a disembodied voice. Yeah, so director confirmed, like you said, it's Blade.
It's Blade.
And basically it was just like, she's like, I like Blade, I think is what it was, wasn't it? That was like the main reason that he's in there. And
yeah, I mean, I'm sure they have some sort of story reason, but we don't know what it is yet.
But I'm going to go in conspiracy theory route. Black Knight teams up with Moon Knight because they're both knights, first of all. No, I'm just kidding. It's because they both are kind of like on that dark level of like underworld kind of stuff. They both go that route. And Dracula at one point steals the ebony blade, and Robert wants his comic book panel in the Moon Knight story that,
Dracula, you nerd.
Yes.
Where's my money?
So we got to get Moon Knight going to there looking for Dracula. Black Knight's going to go look for Dracula for his ebony blade, and Blade's going to be there just to go kill Dracula. And that's how we're going to get Blade into all of this. And there you go. Conspiracy theory. This is what's happening in Moon Knight. All three of them are going to be there.
All right, let's talk about the other post-credit scene. But before we can do that, I think we got to talk about where our characters end up. So we talked about Ajax and Gilgamesh die. Icarus, after not being able to stop the emergence because he loves Cersei, flies into the sun. It appears we don't see him die, but it looks like he's having a very emotional response, and so possibly 3 dead. Sprite decides to become a real girl, Miss Pinocchio. And so Cersei, through absorbing some powers, is able to basically turn her into human. We don't know if she still maintained the ability to have her like illusionary powers. So she could still have her powers and just be mortal, or she could be full on human and not have any powers. We don't know. Then we have, so that's 4. We have Phastos, Cersei, and Kingo stay on the planet, stay on Earth, to kind of watch over it. And Phastos obviously has his family here, so he's going to spend time with them. Kingo is a movie star, so he's good with that. And Cersei loves Earth, so 3 of them decide to stay here. Well, I don't know why you did. I've only mentioned 7 because there are 3 more that leave the planet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, now I'm good, I think.
So the 3 that decide to leave the planet, because their mission is going to be to go tell other Eternals on other planets about this, because again, they know that the Celestials are basically wiping everyone's mind and destroying planets willy-nilly. So they're going to go tell other Eternals and try and convince them not to participate in this plan. So that's Thena, that's Makari, and that's Druid. The 3 of them leave the planet. So right at the end of the movie, a Celestial, Arishem, the judge, shows up at the planet, PO'd, because they killed this emerging Celestial. And the 3 Eternals that he finds there, because Sprite is now a human, are Cersei, Kingo, and Phastos. I thought he pulled all 3 off planet, but every recap I've read only mentions Cersei and Kingo. What did you think? Did you see Phastos get pulled up too?
I thought he did, because I thought the end credit he comments your 3 friends. I thought he said.
So anyways, either way, Cersei and Kingo, or if he grabbed Phastos too, Arishem decides he's going to take the 3 of them. He's going to not on Earth yet. He's going to take them, and he will judge Earth and its inhabitants by the memories of these 3. So he's revealing that his plan is basically to pull their memories out. So once again, wipe their memories, and then use that to determine whether or not Earth is worthy of continuing to be a planet with sentient life, or if he's going to destroy it. And so that's certainly that's a way to go if you're a Celestial.
I mean, I just
And so that's
whatever.
obviously sad for our characters that we've gotten to know. Especially, I think this is why I was so confused, is because I was convinced Fastos was one of them, and I felt so bad for his family, because it was like, oh, like what's going to happen to
He is
his husband and his kid.
Yeah.
Um, but and then of course, like Cersei, and was in a relationship with Black Knight, so all that
Yeah.
stuff, that's sad. But our other three, Thena, Makari, and Druid, who are off on their mission, get interrupted by a teleporting drunk troll named Pip, and
by
and voiced by Patton Oswalt. Yes. And then he introduces someone with many, many titles, basically Star Fox, also known as Eros, played by
AKA the
Harry
brother
Styles, the brother of Thanos. Yes, played by Harry Styles. So this is yet another character or characters that I was like, wait, who are these people? Like, I had no clue.
And Pip the Troll is such a throwaway character as an Eternal. He's such a throwaway.
So it was very interesting, and he shows up and basically says, like, I can help you find your friends because they were taken, and I know where they are.
And they're really deep.
When somebody gets introduced as the brother of Thanos, I think your immediate thought is,
kill him.
I don't know about this guy.
I mean, my immediate thought is kill him. You're the brother of Thanos. I'm gonna.
You agreed with Thanos. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I have got to get rid of half the population. I just killed one. I got rid of half the family.
Well, Thanos is already dead, so that's not fair. Now you're wiping out the whole family.
Well, I got Gamora and Nebula. There's still three, so I got to make it half. There goes this guy. Now the kids are.
Well, Gamora and Nebula both died. Gamora died in Infinity War. Nebula died in Endgame. It was just different versions of them.
Look, all I know is there's 2 and 2. That's all I need to know.
Okay, all right.
Math is hard. We just went over this. Now you're gonna add time travel. We're not gonna.
That's true. I know. That's crazy. So anyway, clearly setting up for the next story that will follow these characters. Is going to be some sort of rescue mission to save those other Eternals. So
exactly.
I don't know if we're gonna get another Eternals movie. Maybe that'll be a thread that gets picked up on like Disney Plus and like a show or something like that. It was successful. It made over 70 million in opening weekend. I just don't know that it's going to connect with enough people where they're going to really say, let's greenlight Eternals 2.
I really think what it's going to be is each set's going to kind of get dealt with differently. Black Knight might deal with, maybe when they come back, maybe they'll get released and they'll come back and Black Knight will deal with it, maybe Moon Knight. But I think our 3 in space, with now the addition of Star Fox and Pip, I think they're going to get more be thrown in there with like Guardians and other cosmic movies that are going to be happening. I don't think they're going to get a solo film. And I think they'll release everybody. The other 3 will come back to Earth. Then Black Knight and his storyline will take effect from there.
When you say release, you mean like rescued, or you think Arishem is just going to be like, you're fine, guys, go back?
I think because Star Fox, I should say, I'm sorry, he's dealt with stuff like this, so I think he would probably get him released, because you can't just go and we rescued him. Okay, you dumb dorks, I know where you're at. I'm going to go back to Earth and I'm just going to pick him back up. So you either got to kill a Celestial.
I think they're going to have to kill Arishem, because there's no way he's going to let our planet go. If he's seen all of our history, he knows what kind of shitheads.
I got to page 2 and know that they need to die. I'm on page 2, guys. Come on.
Right. You guys suck.
Right. I mean, he's Ultron at that point. That went on the internet. Oh no, they just need to go.
Right. What is that? The Fifth Element, and she's just like reading all of human history, and it's like, they just all kill everybody, don't they?
Pretty much. That's gonna be him.
Kind of do.
He's gonna watch that and be like, no. You're gonna have to kill him, or you have to convince him somehow to release him. Because again, it's also very, very hard to kill a Celestial. I mean, we saw how much power they needed to kill that one that's being born, let alone one that's been around since the dawn of time.
I mean, technically, we know of 2 dead Celestials, because the one that is the head of the planet that's nowhere, or it's not a planet, but it's the dead Celestial's head. And then Ego, was a celestial that the Guardians were able to overcome and kill through half celestial. Like, I mean, they, basically Star-Lord had to be half a celestial in order to do that too. So
exactly, and it still took an entire
not the easiest thing.
Yeah, and that's
and they had to explode it from the inside.
Yeah, it's gonna be really hard. So I'm curious. Now, I did like one throwaway that was said in the film is that they are powered by a power cosmic, which made me happy because, again, that's closer to Galactus and the Silver Surfer, who are powered by the power cosmic.
Right.
So it's an energy kind of like gamma and all that powers these beings. So one step closer for me, at least, to like Galactus and, Silver Surfer. And who knows, maybe Celestial will be like, fine, we can't born him this way. We're going to just create Galactus to start eating planets then, because there's too many planets and stuff. This was a balancing act. Now I'm going to throw another balancing act out there, because this could lead to something like that, because that's what Galactus does.
Yeah, we don't know. But overall, I think that kind of wraps up
that does
our discussion. So good movie, not great. Had some really good stuff. Some characters that were really easy to connect to, and others that were not as much. But ultimately, hopefully, if you're watching this part, you've already seen the movie because we just spoiled everything. We do recommend that everyone watches this movie if you can.
Yeah.
Tell people. Again, is it the best of the MCU? No, but I think it's still a really solid superhero movie, and it's certainly very different than really anything we've gotten, certainly from the MCU, but really kind of any type of superhero movie that tries to tell a story that spans so much time and is on such a huge scale and scope. It was very different, and I enjoyed it.
Again, still enjoyed it. And definitely thank you for sticking around for the whole review with the spoilers and everything, guys. Let us know down below what you think of this film. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Where do you rank it to? What's your rating of it? I'm always curious on whatever the people think of these films. But on that note, guys, I'm Aaron and that's Robert. And this was Get Your Geek On. Stay geeky and get your geek on.